What is about to happen in Gaza?
Well, frankly, we don't know at this particular point. I think the Israelis are really on the horn of a real dilemma at this point. If they go in quickly, that reduces the chances that they'll get the hostages out. If they delay too long, then the world will turn against the Israelis and put more pressure on them to make concessions in order to stop the bloodletting that's taking place. So they have a real challenge here in terms of what is their priority. Is the priority to dismantle the leadership of Hamas, which I believe it has to be, or is it to get the hostages out first and then worry about Hamas later? I think it's the reverse. And I hate to say that. I think the families of the hostages are hoping beyond all that the Israelis, coupled with whatever assistance we can give them, can get those hostages out. And I think the Israelis are more concerned at this point that they not allow Hamas to get away with what they have done, the horrific damage they've done to the Israelis, not only militarily, but psychologically.
Mm-hmm. But, sir, it's not just about the hostages either. We're talking millions of civilians, Palestinian civilians that are currently somewhat trapped in Gaza. How much collateral damage do you expect Israel will be willing to tolerate?
You know, I really don't like the phrase collateral damage. In fact, I had to use that during the time that I was in office because it means killing civilians. It means innocent people will die. And this is something that I think the Israelis have to be concerned about. I think President Biden in his passionate speech, Secretary of State Blinken in his passion as well, has said, be balanced here. We know you have to seek to eliminate Hamas, but don't, as much as possible, avoid killing thousands of innocent civilians. That not only will kill people by the thousands, but it will also undermine your status right now as having been the victim of a horrific act. So I think this is what the administration has tried to do is saying you need to go in. We understand that. You need to kill the Hamas, but you need to take care that you don't turn the sea into a bloodletting. There was the old expression, they made a desert and they called it peace. You can't make it a bloodletting and calling it peace. So the Israelis, I'm sure, are concerned about this. I think we as human beings have to be concerned about this, and we need to find a way to satisfy the Israelis being a secure, independent state. And at the same time, I think ultimately there's going to have to be a separate state for the Palestinians. I have advocated this for years. I believe there'll be no solution without it. But right now, they cannot negotiate with Hamas, which is dedicated to the erasure, to the absolute extinction of not only Israel, but Jews at large. So it's a tough problem, but ultimately, the Palestinians have to be taken into account. There won't be any kind of a peace in the Middle East unless we do. Right now, we have to go after Hamas and take them out as best we can.
Just to expand on this idea of protecting civilians as a matter of humanitarian aid as well, Secretary Cohen, we heard from Antony Blinken, who's touring the region right now in Qatar today. The Secretary of State spoke to the difficulty of getting aid to civilians in Gaza. Here's what he said.
Efforts to get humanitarian aid into Gaza are complicated by the fact that Hamas continues to use innocent civilians as human shields and is reportedly blocking roads to prevent Palestinians from moving to southern Gaza out of harm's way. We know the humanitarian situation is urgent. We're actively engaged with partners, including Qatar, to get aid to those who need it.
Secretary Cohen, I could ask you about military strategy, but I'm curious, not the view there of the State Department, but the Pentagon when it comes to this issue. When you were the Secretary of Defense, you're sitting in your office having conversations about humanitarian quarters, about creating safe zones. Is that going to be part of this plan?
I think it has to be. We cannot sit back as a world, sitting back and looking at what's about to unfold and say that we can't make every effort to find a safe corridor, safe haven for tens of thousands of Palestinians who are innocent, who are not supporters of Hamas. You cannot sit back and say, well, they're on their own. There has to be some effort and a substantial effort made to make sure that tens of thousands of innocent people do not die in this bloodbath. So it's, I think we'll call upon, as Secretary of State Blinken did today, upon the leadership of Qatar, a very important country. But there are others in the region, including Egypt, including other Arab states who have seen the benefit of having peace with Israel, whether it's UAE, whether it's Bahrain, whether it's any other country in the region. They have seen what working with Israel has produced for their own countries. And so we have to appeal to them to say, if this gets out of control, this could spread to the entire region and destabilize the world economy. So everybody has a stake in this, but especially the Israelis at this point.
Mr. Secretary, how great do you think that risk is that this turns into a wider regional conflict?
Well, you never want to try to play guessing games with how likely is it to take place. It would only take a spark. For example, I think the fuse has already been lit, but it runs all the way from Iran into Hamas, into Hezbollah, and elsewhere. And so I think that anything could happen if Hamas, if Hezbollah were to start striking Israel in the north, start overloading them with missile strikes. That could spread into Lebanon. And then what happens with the rest of the Arab countries? What do they do? Send their warriors in, or I should say terrorists in, to fight alongside of Hezbollah and Hamas. And so once that happens and the price of oil starts to spike anywhere from where it is today, going up $3 a barrel to up $150 a barrel, some of the projections are, that sets the entire world economy toward a recession, if not a depression. So those things can happen unless great care is taken. So I don't think we should minimize it. It's possible, but that's why prudence is required. That's why President Biden is where he is, Secretary Austin. They're urging that the Israelis have everything they need. They're also urging do it prudently and save as many innocent lives as you can.